Hi there. Thanks for taking the time to watch this Astranti theory revision video. Now, as you can see from what's on screen, we're going to be talking about a lot of words that begin with V. In fact, we're going to be looking at a model called Gartner's 4 Vs, which is pretty important for organisations that want to successfully guide a data strategy. And it's also pretty important for anybody who might be studying their BA1, E1 or OCS exams right now. So if that's you, you'll probably want to stick around for the next 5 minutes or so. In those 5 minutes, I'm going to pass you over to a really helpful and capable Astranti tutor who's going to talk you through this model. They're also going to be making it feel more real and practical using a really helpful example known as Go-Go Foods, an imaginary supermarket that will point out some more of the details of how Gartner's 4 Vs works. So, without further ado, let's get started.
Now, in a 2001 research report, the global research and advisory firm Gartner outlined 3 characteristics of big data: volume, velocity, and variety. Now, often when big data is being discussed, a 4th characteristic is also included: veracity. Now, these are referred to as the 4 V's of big data because they all start with V. Now, these can be used to guide a data strategy because data systems should be designed to cope with each of the characteristics of big data. So let's have a look at each of these characteristics in more detail and see how it impacts on a data strategy. And we're going to begin at the top of the V with volume. Now, volume refers to the amount of data which is collected by the organization. Big data sets are so large they can't be handled by traditional data processing methods. Now, as part of the data strategy, the organization has to consider whether it has systems in place which are capable of storing and processing big data sets. Now, if it doesn't, then the organization has to consider whether it's worth investing in new IT systems with the capabilities to do so. We're still going to talk about Go-Go Foods in this section as well. And we've already suggested that they're investing in cloud computing, and that's going to allow them to store huge amounts of data online. Now, as long as they're willing to pay for extra cloud space, they'll be able to store infinite amounts of data. That's certainly a good decision when we're considering volume. The next V is velocity, and this refers to the speed at which data is collected by the organization. The rate at which big data is collected is increasing, and real-time data can now be collected. Data systems have to be in place which can process this data so as to provide real-time information, and this allows the organization to spot and react to the latest changes quickly. We've already talked, haven't we, when we looked at stakeholders, how important real-time information is to different groups of stakeholders. Now, a supermarket could analyze purchase data in real time so as to anticipate the rises in demand in specific stores, or perhaps of a particular product. And then they can use this information to ensure they quickly restock in locations where they're running out and immediately reorder stock from suppliers to make sure that they can cope with the increased demand. So that's the benefits of speed. The next V is variety, and variety refers to the range of data types and the sources of data available to an organization. Now, typically, big data sets contain a huge variety of different data, which can make analysis very difficult. Now, as we discussed as part of the core components of the data strategy earlier on in the video, the organization needs to make sure that its systems are in place to organize the data into a standardized format, and that there is some kind of value attached to it which allows it to be analyzed. So variety, taking different ranges of information and making sure it's put into a standardized format. So, for example, some supermarkets analyze CCTV footage to see how long their checkout queues are at certain types of the day. Now, video footage on its own has no value which can be analysed, but the area of the supermarket floor covered by people at any one time can be measured, and this does. This data is combined with the time between transactions to measure how long each customer spends at the till. Hopefully this gives you an indication of how diverse big data sets can be. And then we move on to our fourth V, which is veracity, and this refers to the quality and the reliability of the data being collected. Now, as large quantities of data are collected and are often pulled together into data sets, it's really easy for the quality or source of the data to be just disregarded. However, as important business decisions can be made based on the results of big data analysis, it's vital that the data can be trusted and its users are aware of any limitations that are associated with particular sets of data. So, for example, GoGo Foods may decide to purchase third-party data which provides information about people's browsing habits online, hoping to improve its own website design. Now, this data would have been collected by lots of different websites, which have then sold it to the third-party data provider, who pull it together to sell on. But for this third-party data to be useful to GoGo Foods should find out how the data is collected to determine whether it is reliable and representative of their customer population. Because, of course, if they're basing decisions upon it, if they're going to change their website design because of that data, what happens if the data isn't very reliable, isn't very good? Well, then they're going to be making poor decisions, which is really going to harm the business of GoGo Foods.
So there you go, there was our quick look at Gartner's 4 Vs. Now, you may have noticed from the example that seems to have come from somewhere else, and the fact that as I zoom out, you can see a whole load more information. This is just one small part of one of our courses. In fact, this is our E1 course tuition video, which you can take alongside our comprehensive study text and our revision notes, which condense all of these points and help you remember them for your exam. And then after that, you can go and do some of our hundreds of mock and practice questions that will really solidify your knowledge, ready for you to pass your exam. Of course, all of this is available on our website, www.astranti.com, and if you go over there and have a look, you might even find some of our free resources. So we've come to the end of that quick theory revision video. Before you go, I would love it if you would take the time to like this video and subscribe for more revision tips and theory revision in the future. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video.